Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's market analysis for Morgan Hill, California. We're going to be doing a complete look at the entire month of July. Those numbers are in, and we've tweaked them and taken a look at them and gotten in there with a magnifying glass to take a look at exactly what's going on so we can give you the very best information. My name is Robert Whitelaw. I'm a licensed real estate broker, and I'm also the owner of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services based right here in Morgan Hill. So, for my neighbors here in Morgan Hill, let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at these numbers because there's some very interesting stuff. And what's also interesting is when you look into the details of some of these numbers, you're going to get more useful information that's going to help you make better decisions. So let's go ahead and jump right in and take a look. Now, the first thing that we're going to take a look at is the total active listings for July of 2022. We can see that overall they're up 21.2%, but I want to call your attention to this. Now, I've added another column right here, and that is the same month, July, compared to the previous year's July. So that's a direct side-by-side comparison between July 22nd, July of 2022, and July of 2021. And just because of the way this is set up, I just wanted to make sure you had that sort of visual indicator of the difference. So as you can see, we're up quite a bit in terms of total number of active listings. What's going to be interesting is when we get into some of these next slides that sort of contradict that, and we'll discuss why there's a little bit of a contradiction there, because it'll make sense once we actually get done with that. Okay, next, new listings. So these are folks who listed their home in July of 2022, looking back over past months, but also comparing it to the same time last year. And you can see we're down. So fewer people listed their home in July of 2022 than listed their home in July of 2021, to the sum of 19.7%. So this month, or July, we had 57 homes that were listed. We had 71 listed the same time last year. But you might be asking yourself, well, what does that tell me since we're seeing such high inventory? Why is it that there's lower listings? Well, sellers are stepping back from the market in terms of listings, but one thing that we're seeing is that there are just fewer homes getting sold. The reason why the number of homes that is increasing in terms of market availability has more to do with things staying on the market longer. And again, if you take a look at these, you can see we've got the two side-by-side scales to show us the relationship between July of 2022 and July of 2021, just so you can get a better visual indicator there. Now, if we take a look historically at what's happened with new listings, we can see that the usual trends, right? The reason why we like to look at comparing a July to a July is so that we can remove some of those seasonal influences. Of course, we're going to see the lowest number of homes going on the market in December, in those winter months. We start to see the decline in November as we head into Thanksgiving, and people want to just have their homes for those events rather than having to worry about showing people through. But then we see that really big jump once we get out of January, and we see things sort of peak there in April and May. And that's fairly normal, but we've actually, in the current market, the way things have been working since COVID got started, we've actually seen homes going on the market earlier than normal. We would normally see bigger jumps a little later. We're seeing things jumping up about a month, 2 months earlier than normal in terms of the biggest amount of activity in the marketplace. Because historically, what's been considered the hottest month for sellers has been June, but we're seeing that having moved a little bit earlier in the year. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the total number of homes sold. You can see that, again, this is a side-by-side comparison. That super tall one at 83 is from July of last year. And you can see that we have a 47% drop, almost a 50% drop between this year and last year. So we've sold half the number of homes, which I think kind of gives us some feeling of understanding of why we have a continuing inventory. We've got a dramatic drop in the homes sold, total of 44 homes sold, still less than the 57 homes that were listed in July. So I think that kind of gives us some insights into why we see the number of homes total in inventory accumulating. The number of homes that we're selling is still lower than the total number of homes that were listed. So there's an accumulation happening now, which was the opposite in previous months when the market was absolutely rock solid in the seller's hands, where you were seeing us selling not only we would list 40 homes and we'd sell 60 homes. So we'd be selling off existing inventory plus all the homes that came onto the market in any given month. Okay, next, average list price. Now, this is an interesting one because the way I calculate this number, or the way I extract this number, is not what the price of the home was at the time it sold. This is the price that the seller would have agreed on in the listing appointment that they had with their real estate person. So I like to use that number because for folks out there that are thinking about selling, for people on the buyer side that are trying to figure out what expectations are on the part of sellers, this really gives us a clue into what seller expectations were on average in our local market. By putting down exactly the amount they thought they were going to sell this home for, or what they were going to list it for at the time they signed that listing agreement. So this doesn't take into account any price increases or decreases after it was originally listed. Okay, because I want to get that what the original expectation was. Now we can see when compared to the same time last year, and again, if we take a look at these two columns, we can see that one is for July 21st of last year, which was 1.436 million. And July of 2022, 1.39. So expectations on the part of sellers has actually declined 3.2% in terms of what folks list their home for on average. Does that make sense? Now, next, average sales price. Now, this is just the straight up sales price. There's no weird math I'm trying to get across to you here. But you can see that even with all the influences that we've had so far, all the indicators of a moving market, we are still seeing homes selling on average for quite a bit more than last year. Couple of things to note, though. A lot of people would look at this, and let's go ahead and just put an emphasis on those two columns. We can see we've had a steady increase. And since Morgan Hill is a smaller market, we're not getting hundreds and hundreds of homes sold every month. There's going to be a little bit more fluctuation. A single home, 2 homes, 3 homes can have a dramatic effect on the overall numbers. And that's why I wanted to call your attention to this one. Now, the market is still beating seller expectations, despite the rest of the market not doing so. So in other words, all these other areas, we're tending to beat those markets. And we'll actually discuss that in more detail in this month's Coffee and Real Estate Live Chat. I do that on the 3rd Saturday of every month, where we cover Santa Clara County, San Jose, Morgan Hill, and now, as of this month, we also cover Gilroy, to get a bird's eye view where we start at that 10,000-foot view and bring it all the way down to these local communities so that we can kind of see what the market is doing more broadly around us in our Southern Valley area. So what do we want to know more about this average sales price? We need to point out that there are a couple of properties that I think really threw the numbers off. There's a property that sold for $6.8 million in the month of July. Now, why is that interesting? Well, one, it's a giant number, so it's going to push that average sales price up higher than it normally would be. And also keep in mind that home took 275 days to sell. And when it finally did sell, it sold for $1 million below the original asking price. So that's a significant drop in asking price. It's also a significant price that will affect how we calculate these numbers. So it artificially inflates the average sales price in Morgan Hill. Now, if we exclude that highest price sale, the average home price of sales becomes $1.541 million. And that's still higher than the average list price by 16.3%. All right, so it's still an increase from the same time last year, but by 16.3% instead of 26.9%. Now, let's look at, I believe, percent of list price is our next metric here. Now, this is how much people got over or under asking price. Now, also keep in mind, remember, this last column is last year. The second to the last column is this year. So for the first time in a very long time, we're at 99.8%. So we are below asking price when it comes to offers that win. Now, again, this isn't one of those numbers that can be affected by these dramatic drops that were taken by some smaller number of properties to the tune of $1 million. So in real terms, we're really closer to about 102%, just so that you're calibrated to what the truth on the ground is based on what these numbers actually represent. All right. Finally, let's go ahead and hit days on market. Days on market is another one that's dramatically increased, and it is another one that's also affected by these homes. We had 2 homes that were on the market for 325 days and 275 days We also had a couple of homes that sold in 0 days, which is an interesting one to consider. But if we normalized for those extremely long-term listings that were on the market forever and realized that those were kind of a slice of a different kind of house, super luxury end pricing, very long in the market, we would get closer to 23 days if we eliminate those larger outliers. And given what we see, I think that is a far more in line with reality number. In other words, we're trying to understand what we should expect right now, whether we're buyers, sellers, or investors in Morgan Hill. And 23 days falls in the line of what's happening in the county and other areas. It's also more in line with the trend that we're seeing here. But I wanted to compare it again to the same time last year. It was only 13 days last year. We've added, with my revised numbers, at least 10 days to the number of days on market. And while we've been ignoring days on market for months and months, for the market analysis I've been providing for people for what? I think we've been doing the coffee and real estate events for 2 years now, almost 3. We just haven't seen this be the reality where days on market was something worth tracking because it was artificially really maintained. By that, I mean, if you were a listing agent trying to help a seller get a home sold, you were telling buyers, don't make any offers for the first 10 days. We will not accept offers until such and such a date. So the days on market was really being artificially defined by real estate agents. And it was anywhere from 10 to 15 to 18 days, depending on how many weekends that agent might want to have for open houses for folks to be able to get a look at the property. Now that's not the case. Days on market is now a real organic number again that's happening because it's taking that long to get the home sold rather than an arbitrary number that real estate agents are picking to make people wait before they make any offers. Now, all of this is the latest data on what's going on in Morgan Hill. Of course, we looked a little bit more deeply in there to find out the truth behind some of these numbers. We will be doing, as we always do on the third Saturday of this month, a deep dive into this compared to the county, compared to San Jose, compared to Gilroy, to get an idea of how the market overall is responding to some of these changes in the market. So I invite you to join me. It's over on Facebook. I'll have a link in the description of this video for you to check that out. So feel free to join me. I hope this has been great information for you. If I can help you reach your real estate goals, please feel free to reach out to me. You can find me at www.soldbyrobert.com. Thanks. I hope this has been useful.